Hey guys, Chris from Drift Outfitters, and I'm going to show with you today my go-to Caddis Pupa pattern. This is a really simple little guy. Just terrific pattern all around, lots of motion to it, lots of translucency, responsible for a lot of fish. So we'll hop right into it. Hook that I'm going to use today, this is a Dohiku 302 size 14. And the bead on here, this is going to be a 3mm copper slotted tungsten bead. So you'll see this is a standard nymph hook, not a jig hook, but with a slotted bead. So that's something that we usually use on jig hooks because it wraps around the elbow of a jig hook nicely. But we can also use them on non-inverted hooks, just regular nymph hooks here. And what we can do is we can push this bead here, if we can get it straight, push this bead up to the top of the shank so that it's actually still going to invert this fly, but by using the nymph hook instead of the jig hook, which would bend down toward the point, it actually preserves more gap here so we can hook up a little bit more reliably. So this is another way you can approach your nymphs, which I really like. Thread here, this is a 14-aught Veevus in an olive. You could use black or brown or whatever. I don't think it matters all that much. It's not going to show up a whole lot in the final product. What I'm going to do, because on a regular jig hook, this bead sort of automatically sits up so as to invert the hook, but on here it just kind of spins around unless we tell it which way to go. So I'm going to push up on this bead and forward until it does kind of ride up there, and then while holding it in place with my finger, I'm just going to build up a little bit of a thread dam behind it to lock it in that position. By inverting this hook, we're not going to hang up on bottom quite as much, and we're also clearing the path between the point and the bead even more than using, say, a regular hook with a non-slide or regular countersunk bead, which would stay more sort of center line on this hook. It would then just ever so slightly more obstruct this hook point. So this really does get the bead up and out of the way and inverts the hook, which is quite nice. So I'm going to take wraps down to the bend here. And for this fly, you can tie it a couple different ways. You can use either a little bit of like olive yarn, or in this case, I'm going to use some SLF dubbing in an olive. Dub a little bit of this onto the thread, just a sparse amount. I'm also going to take a length of Glo-Brite Floss. This stuff is awesome. And this is shade number 12. It's a lime green or chartreuse. Can't remember off the top of my head what they call it. But shade number 12. And I'm just going to take a length of that and catch it in off the back here. And just pull it in. So we have it tied in the right length. And then I'm just going to start, now my dubbing's caught up here, dubbing that squirrel dubbing onto my hook, building up a little bit of a taper as I go. So ramping up slightly toward the bead. Like so, you can see it gives us a nice scruffy body already. Even this, frankly, would be a great fishing fly, but what I'm going to do now is I'm going to twist up this Glo-Brite a little bit, and I'm going to wrap it onto my fly as a rib. Get a few wraps on there. This is sort of similar style to a lot of Euro nymphs. You'll see different shades of this Glo-Brite or other materials similar being used to add just a little bit of a hot spot throughout the fly. You can just see how that sort of shines through there. And then this is a really simple fly. To finish it off, the only other thing I like to do is take a little bit of CDC. I usually take sort of a plume with a thicker stem that I'm not going to use for dry flies or anything. Doesn't really matter though. And I'm just going to, off the side, strip off a few fibers. You can, if you don't want these little curly butt ends, just clip them with your scissors here. And then I'm just going to treat this CDC as dubbing. I don't use a dubbing loop for this, I just dub it straight on myself. I find it works just fine. It's just a nice quick way to get that on there, like so. And I'm just going to throw on a whip finish in front. Trim my thread, and then I just take a little bit of Velcro and just pick out that CDC a little bit. You can see there's a couple of those little curly ends still. Just snip those. And that CDC is super soft. It just kind of veils the body and gives you that nice translucency that you'd like to see on a Caddis Pupa. That is my Caddis Pupa jig.